Muriel Rukeyser in the 1950s, an American activist and poet. She said, the world is not made of atoms and molecules, but it's made of stories. And there's nobody braver and nobody honestly more significant than the man to my right. I love him and the work that he does and the power and the intention that he has with his work. And so to sit and have a fireside conversation, even though there's no fire, but with a bit of fire in the wine.
Let's pretend there's a fictional fire.
We could get you a hot drink.
No, it's good.
Oh, you're the fire.
You're right. You're the fire.
Well, we're the fire.
Yeah, bring the fire.
We're the fire. Actually, we feel your glow. You're the fire.
That's right, you're the fire.
Yes, that's right.
And really-
Just warm my hands.
That's actually quite true. I don't think I need this microphone, right? You're the fire. The recipient of a story is always the one who really completes the story in all sorts of ways. We're going to talk for a little while. Narrative 4 is basically, I'll just say, the coolest organization in the world. We bring primarily young people together to exchange stories with one another, to recognize what sort of change and action is needed on the ground. We're in almost 42 countries officially. We're really working in 35 countries. We're all across the United States. I can't tell you how powerful our work is in places like Ireland and in Mexico. And we're in 12 countries in Africa. And when those kids come together across the rivers and across the borders, and they just exchange personal stories with one another, the ground upon which they stand is powerfully shifted. That's using a Salman metaphor in some ways. Look, I've been doing this for a long time. Salman was very helpful to us in the beginning. He's always been a talisman for me. We're going to fight later on this evening. No, we're not.
It's an Irish thing.
Yeah, it's an Irish thing. I was telling a friend today, what's the difference between an Irish wedding and an Irish funeral?
It's not one.
One less drunk. Anyway, here we are. So this is why it's a fireside conversation, because you can say whatever the hell you want. But Salman.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's very nice to be here. A really gorgeous room, full of really gorgeous people. Why would one not want to be here? Literary events are not always like this.
Right. So you've been alongside us for quite a while.
Yeah.
In powerfully stated ways when you walked down with Lisa all those years ago, and then also supporting us. And then we said we're going to talk against the available evidence of the world right now, and maybe talk about hope, and maybe talk about the power of stories and storytelling. So can I ask you, what is a story?
Something somebody wants to listen to.
Yeah, that's beautifully said.
I've said to students when I've had the chance, because students are taught now, write what you know.
Right.
And I say, yeah, write what you know, but only if what you know is really interesting.
Right.
Because otherwise, go find something out.
Right.
Listen to other people.
Right.
Exactly what you're saying. Listen to other stories.
Yeah.
Get into rooms which are not the rooms which are naturally your rooms.
Right.
You know, find out stuff. And that becomes what you know.
Right.
Then write that.
So write towards what you want to know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the things for, you know, Dickens, for example, one of the things I really admire about him is the spectrum of society that he can write about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can write about pickpockets and archbishops.
Right.
And he can write about London high and low, dust heaps and palaces. And it's because he went around finding out.
Right.
You know, there's a legend about Dickens that when he would write a passage of dialogue of two characters walking down a street in London, that he would go and walk down that street speaking the lines to make sure that that's how long it took to have that piece of dialogue.
Wow. Do you believe it?
I want to believe it,
Yeah.
you know, because it's characteristic of him that he wanted to know.
Right.
You know, he wasn't content with the thing that was given to him from his own circumstances.
Right.
He wanted to know everything about everyone.
Right.
And that's what makes him Charles Dickens.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's exactly what you're telling these kids to do.
Right.
It is the most important thing for a writer to do. Learn more. Don't just, otherwise these kids would come into class, and they were all kind of middle class kids, and they would all write stories about a suburban setting in which their father didn't like them and their mother didn't understand them and the girl they loved was in love with someone else, and it was beyond tedious. And I remember saying to one of them, how about if you set it in that world and then a spaceship lands on the lawn? Write about that.
Right.
Who comes out of the spaceship?
Right.
That's more interesting than whether your dad liked you or not.
But you've never written about spaceships.
Well, stay tuned.
So what's interesting to me is that so many of us and so many young people like live their lives in a circumference that their cell phone encompasses. So if you think of it, it's almost like a 3 or 4 foot wide circumference of a circle. And they believe, though, because they have this thing in their hands, that they are actually engaging with the whole wide world.
And actually it does the opposite. It makes people
Right.
lonelier.
Right.
You know, it makes people more isolated from each other
That's right.
and more troubled because what they see on their cell phone is a fantasy life.
That's right.
You know, where everybody has a dog and a beach and a beautiful dinner and
Yeah.
dresses beautifully and listens to cool music and they're sitting in their little room thinking, I'm a loser.
So we've had this epidemic of loneliness and isolation, particularly among young people, but also amongst ourselves, let's face it, right? So how do we break out of it?
Well, I mean, the idealist answer is that art is what does that.
Right.
And I mean, not just our art, you know, but art itself, music, painting,
Video.
dance, all those things that Timothy Chalamet said should be abolished. To which the answer is maybe Timothy Chalamet should be abolished. Because, of course, the creation of beauty is the function of the artist. And beauty is what sets us free. The experience of beauty enriches us and enables us and gives us the strength to live our lives. You know, so I mean, I do this, you do this. You know, we're not very good at dancing.
Speak for yourself.
No, I'm speaking for you, Cole.
He's seen me dance.
But, you know, some people can do more than one thing, but if you at least can do one thing which increases the sum of beauty available in the world,
Right.
that's worth doing.
Is that enough?
It's never enough.
Right.
You know, none of us can do enough.
Will enough ever be enough?
No, there's no such thing as enough.
There you go.
You know, There's just.
But you've spent your life going across borders, across boundaries, across cultural gulfs, and you've embraced all these things. Do you still really truly believe in this power of stories and storytelling?
I mean, I guess I believe in it. It's just also I can't do anything else.
Right.
So
Well, I understand that, but
so I better believe
you
it.
also happen to be. Let's not pull our punches here. The best at this, you know, and one of the best ever. So you can say that, but do you actually truly believe that these like stories and storytelling can bridge these gaps
Well,
and all these
what
things?
I think is this: I don't want to overclaim for literature. You know,
Or oversaying to yourself?
you know, literature doesn't, in the familiar way, change the world.
Right.
You don't publish a book and the world is different. Right. That doesn't happen. Or it very, very rarely happens. I mean, Uncle Tom's Cabin is an example of a book that really affected the conversation about the slavery question. And there's a story which I believe to be true about President Lincoln meeting Harriet Beecher Stowe and saying, "You're the little woman who started this big war." You know, and there's a sense in which that's true. But usually, books don't do that.
Right.
What books do is they change readers. You know, I've had the experience, and I'm sure you have, of reading a book that it really speaks to you.
Yeah.
You know, and you have the experience of saying, "I love this book," which maybe doesn't happen that often in a lifetime, to actually really love a book. But when you do, the vision of the book becomes a part of your vision of the world, and it changes you.
Right.
You know, and neither the writer nor the reader knows if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, or to whom it's going to happen. This is the magic of it. You know, it's a mystery.
So you spent your life doing this. I'm going to ask you a weird question that nobody else can ask on, like, except it's in a room with Chatham House rules. Are you happy?
Am I happy? You know, there's this passage in Waiting for Godot where Didi and Gogo ask themselves that question.
I know.
Are you happy? What?
What?
Are you happy? I don't know. Are you happy? I think so. Are you happy?
Can't
They go through
on.
that, and they end up saying, "What shall we do now that we're happy?"
Now, what should we do now that we're happy?
And the answer is, wait for Godot.
Wait for Godot.
So yeah, I mean, I think I'm mostly happy.
Yeah.
I mean, I do work that I love, and I live with the person that I love, and
Can I just talk about that for a second? Eliza, where are you? There she is. And I kind of think this is really important, especially in the times that we're in. Not your last book, which is 11th Hour, which is another amazing book, but the book before that, Knife, was a love story in which someone tried to kill you, but you
always
talked.
a good premise for a love story.
There, I mean, you and Shakespeare got together and you concocted this plot. But talk to me about the love story element of that.
Well, what I thought was this: that I thought, if I'm going to write about the attack,
Right.
that's not a book. That's like 20 pages.
Yeah.
That's an essay. So if there's a book here, what's the book? And I began to think of it, I began to see the book as a kind of triangle. And at one point of the triangle is me. And at the other 2 points of the triangle were the attacker and Eliza. In other words, love and death,
Yeah.
beauty and terror,
Yeah.
the opposites, you know, moral opposites.
Tell me about the night you met her.
Oh God, I have to tell this story.
Do it.
Oh, she loves this story because it makes me look so stupid. You were there.
I was there.
You were there.
I
Anyway,
was part of the problem. I encouraged them to go
well,
upstairs.
If you can't be part of the solution, you may as well be part of the problem. But we were all at the opening night of the Penn World Voices Festival.
Right.
And we were backstage in the green room, and Eliza and I were both on the bill. Eliza was reading poetry with Adonis, the great Syrian poet.
And you had an Adonis.
And I was sort of introducing the evening, that's all I was doing. But we met, and I say this, but she disagrees. She totally hit on me.
That's great because she doesn't have a microphone right now.
She has a different
She
opinion.
totally hit on you?
She has a different opinion.
Okay. I probably would support her opinion.
Many people would, but I know the truth. Anyway, so then, end of evening, and we went our separate ways. And there was this after party on the roof terrace of the Standard Hotel.
Yeah,
that's
Standard.
there down near Cooper Union. And I wasn't going to go. I thought I'll just go home. And then I met Marlon James and maybe you.
Me.
You.
Yeah, myself and Marlon.
And you sort of tempted me into having a drink.
Yes. I just said, well, Marlon wasn't going to tempt you into having a drink. Marlon would tempt you to have it hanging around. But I said, Salman, come on, let's have a jar.
Yeah, those were the...
Which is what we've got everyone here doing tonight, by the way.
And that was the kind of open sesame. So we went up to the roof terrace, and I met Eliza again, and we were talking. And I then, you know how the roof terrace there has an inside room and outside terrace?
Yes.
And I said, let's go outside because it's a beautiful evening. It was May, it was a beautiful evening, and you know, the lights of the city. And I thought, let's just go out and look at the city and have a drink. And so there are these sliding glass doors. And Eliza went out through the sliding glass doors, and I followed her, and I didn't realize that this sliding glass door was closed. So I smashed into it.
Yeah.
And fell,
Elegant.
not elegant, fell down, having my glasses cut my nose. I had little blood coming down my nose. Everybody was going, oh God, Salman Rushdee's fallen down. And I was just feeling like an idiot, telling myself, don't fucking faint. And anyway, I got up, and I then felt so embarrassed that I thought, maybe I should go home now. So I said, I'm going home now. And because Eliza's very nice, she said that she would come down and make sure that I got into a cab okay and so on.
Good move, Salman.
See?
Good move.
And then, you see, then I got into the cab, and then she got into the cab. and we've been together.
Listen.
So there we are. That's I think what Hollywood calls meeting cute.
Right. Yeah. So tell me then, in the evolution of all of this, and let's talk a little bit about Knife, and we'll talk a little bit about the attack, and then we'll go on to 11th Hour. But in the evolution of all of this, I mean, it was an extraordinary thing that happened to you in a life of extraordinary things. And it wasn't the culmination. When somebody attacked you on stage in upstate New York, it's not the culmination of anything. But you decided to turn it around after spending how many months in hospital?
Oh, the actual hospital was like 6 weeks.
6 weeks, so a month and a half.
And then a long period of post-operative,
Right.
going to doctors every day.
But did you know straight away that you were going to write about this
No,
stuff?
I knew the opposite. Initially, I didn't want to write about it.
Yeah,
I just wanted to get better,
right.
And
But you didn't think you were going to get better by writing about it? Did
initially
you?
I didn't. And Andrew Wiley came to see me in hospital, and he's my literary agent. And he said, "You'll write about this, of course you'll write about this." And I said, Andrew, maybe I won't write about this.
Right.
And he said, "No, you'll write about this." And he was right and I was wrong.
Right.
Because there came a moment when I understood, when I was a bit better, I was out of hospital.
Right.
And I thought, I can't write about anything else.
Right.
you know.
But you have written about yourself before. And here I'm going to confess a little thing. So for the first time ever, and Salman knows this, I'm kind of writing about myself because I had brain surgery, as you know, last year, and things got a little dodgy
Yeah.
in my life and in my perception of my life. But I've never really been interested in writing about my own life because I don't find myself very interesting. I always find other people very interesting, which really, when you think about it, is the essence of narrative 4. It's asking you to push yourself to become someone else.
Yeah, I never wanted to write about myself.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, if your instinct is to be a novelist, it's to go away from yourself
Right.
into other lives, make people up.
But is it a sign of the times that we're...
No, it's just a sign of having had something serious happen to you.
Right.
You know,
But you've had a lot of serious shit happen to you. Excuse my French.
this
Mel.
is true.
Yeah.
This is true. And
But when you did it in the voice of Joseph Anton, for instance.
yeah, that was a much bigger. I mean, that's about 10 years of my life.
Right.
This is about one day.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a different thing. But yeah, I mean, I acquired the curse of an interesting life.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I don't want somebody else to write it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because as it happens, I'm a writer.
Yeah. Good.
So maybe I should write it.
Right.
And that was certainly true about that big, long book, the longest book I ever wrote,
Yeah.
which everybody said was 50 pages too long.
What? Joseph Anton?
All the editors and different publishers in England and America and Canada, etc. And so I said, tell me where the cut is.
Right.
And they couldn't agree.
Yeah.
One editor would suggest cut this bit. Another one would say, no, that's my favorite bit.
Yeah.
And after this had gone on for a while, I said, would you all please stop it? And it's just going to
Just
have to be
publish
50
it.
pages too long.
Yeah. Which is what? How many pages was it? 750 pages?
It's close,
Yeah.
close to 700, 680
Yeah.
or something. Anyway,
And it's a beautiful book, by the way. It's a beautiful, beautiful
well,
book.
thank you.
As is Knife, by
But
the
put
way.
the two of them together, and there's a kind of the life story I didn't want to have to tell.
Right. Right.
You know, I would rather have had a much more boring life.
Really? I don't
Yes.
believe you.
No, of course I would.
I think you're lying to me.
No, I'm not. I think boredom is a great thing for a writer.
Really?
Yeah, think of Flaubert.
No,
nothing,
no,
Nothing
but-
ever happened to him.
Yeah. But I don't
He
think
would sit
that
up in
you...
his attic scribbling, and he'd come down and say, "I had a great day today. I wrote a sentence."
Really? Yeah. Or Joyce, who said, I spent all day on a sentence, putting things in and putting things out, and then eventually left it the
Yeah,
way
I mean,
it
all
was
Joyce had was money trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so banal.
Can I ask you, have you had money trouble in your life?
Yeah, I had money when I was starting out. Yeah.
What was the money trouble that you had in your life?
Well, paying the rent.
Okay. So tell us.
So I had to write commercial. I had to write advertising to pay the rent.
But were you poor at that stage?
Well, I was until I got a job in advertising, and then I was writing dog food commercials.
Yeah, but were you actually poor? Or you were just
Well,
pretending
I
to be
wasn't
poor?
on the street.
Right.
I had a place to live.
Right.
So I wasn't poor in the sense of impoverished.
Yeah, but then things happened to you, and then you wrote this book, Midnight's Children. But you'd written before that, Shame.
No, shame's after.
Oh, Shame's after. Excuse me. Yeah. But everything sort of shot out. There were all sorts of fireworks going off in the
Yeah.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was lucky in that my second novel was very successful.
Yeah.
And it kind of changed my life, and it allowed me to live by my pen,
Right.
which many wonderful writers cannot do,
Right.
and have to have other work.
Isn't that shameful? That
It's shameful that other writers need to get jobs in advertising or in a university or school. You have to do something else to pay the rent.
Yeah.
But I've been fortunate in that I haven't had to do that as long as I've been able to keep coming up with books.
Right. And do you keep coming up with them?
So far, so good.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that, because 11th Hour, the most recent book, was really quite wonderful to me.
Thank you.
It felt like you were treading old territory and actually telling it entirely in a new way at the exact same time.
Well, I'm always looking for the new. You know, I don't want to just. There are things I know I can do. You know, there's ways of telling stories that I can do that. You know, and
Do you think you can always do it? Do you wake up in the morning and think, yeah, I can do it?
yeah, but I don't want.
But it's
to
not
do it.
routine.
But I don't want to do it.
Right.
You know, the stuff I've already done. I don't want to do it again.
Right.
You know, it's like eating leftovers.
Leftovers are sometimes quite good.
Sometimes
though.
quite good, but not often. Actually, Indian food reheats very well.
Yeah.
But
Indian food reheats very well. Everyone come away with that.
but really true.
Yeah.
Sometimes better the second night.
Right.
Anyway, the point is, I like to always ask myself to find something that feels fresh to me. You know, I'm really only thinking about me. I'm thinking about if I know that I've done something like this before, don't do it.
Right.
You know, find something that you have to find out how to do it.
Right.
You know,
Do you
And
think you're that brave? Do you not get terrified sometimes?
I mean, writing is terrifying. All writing is terrifying because you're always less good than you hope to be.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
You can only be less good than you
Yeah,
hope to
I
be.
mean, you know, you have an idea and you think this is going to be just the best thing ever written.
Right.
And then you bump up against the wall of your lack of talent.
Yeah.
You know, and every writer, I think, every writer has to
But let me
learn how
push
to
back
make-
a little bit.
Yeah, you have to try and make the gap between intention and achievement as small as possible. You know, but there's always going to be a gap unless you're Shakespeare.
No, not necessarily. You know, your perception of your lack of talent is the thing that actually makes you good.
Oh yeah, you have to be very hard on yourself.
Yeah.
I think, you know,
Right.
and also I find myself envying writers that I can't be like.
Wow.
You know, for example, I always have envied writers who were deeply rooted in a place. You know, had spent their lives
Right.
knowing a place and I mean Faulkner,
Faulkner. Yes.
know, Eudora
Dr.
Welty.
Canty, yeah.
etc. I once met Eudora Welty, had lunch with her, and this is when she was the age that I am now, and I wanted to ask her about Faulkner, so I did. I said, William Faulkner, like that. She said, yes, dear. What do you want to know about him? I thought, fuck, what do I want to know about him? And I said, would you say, on the whole, that he's been a help or a hindrance to you? And she said, no. She said, it's kind of like knowing there's a big mountain in the neighborhood. She said, it's very nice to know it's there, but it doesn't help you do your work. And I asked one question too many. I said, so do you not think of Faulkner as one of the writers that you feel closest to? And she said, hell no, dear. He's from Oxford. I'm from Jackson. It's miles away. He's not really. Anyway, so those writers,
Right.
the writers with the deep, deep rootedness.
But you don't have that. You're
I don't
born
have
in
that.
Bombay.
I don't have that. I'm bummed around the world so much.
Right.
So I envy them. But then you have to just make the best of what you got.
Okay, so Michael Ondaatje talks about being among the international mongrels of the world. You've talked about being among the international bastards of the world, like trying to find a voice that speaks in several different directions. It's a tough.
Yeah, I mean, when I wrote Midnight's Children, I really had no idea who was going to read it. You know, I thought, here's this book. It's very long. It's kind of weird.
And kind
It's
of beautiful.
It's written in English that isn't like the English,
Right.
the way the English speak English.
But that's because the Irish beat
Well, of
them
course,
now.
that's the thing. I remember there's a thing that Joyce talked about liberating English from the ownership, from the possession of the English.
Exactly. And that's what we did as colonial. Look, you suffered colonialism. We suffered colonialism. You went ahead and did this powerful thing. But talk to me more.
Well, one of the funny things about when Midnight Children came out, suddenly I discovered other people who were not related to me, were buying copies of it. It was a big surprise, you know. And then I was in India, when traveling around talking about the book in various places. And in many places, I met young writers of my age who told me that they had been thinking of a similar book.
Oh, of course. Because they were all born on significant date.
Yeah, but in different parts of India. You know, so there was a Goan journalist who said, he had a chapter. He said, here's my first chapter about this Goan boy born at midnight. I thought, is either he's not telling the truth, or I just had the good luck to finish first.
Yeah. No, he wasn't telling the truth. I mean, you were intuiting the voices of others. It also takes a certain sort of bravery and a stamina and a perseverance. You know, let's not even get into the political stuff that you had to go through for years and years. But it takes a stamina, desire, and perseverance to be a writer, to stand up there and to take the shite that gets slung at you at various stages.
Yeah, well, it's not the most easy job, you know, and it's hard to do it. It's also joyful to do it, by the way. I'm not complaining. I like doing it better than I would like doing any other kind of work.
I can't see you doing. You couldn't have been a very good plumber, could you?
No, but I was a good dog food commercials writer. Anyway, one of the strange things about writing is that when you're doing it, it feels like a completely private act. You know, you're just sitting at home in an empty room, it's just you and that piece of paper, or now, of course, screen.
You're not thinking of your audience?
No, I'm thinking of it and what it requires of me to bring it to life and to make it work.
Yeah.
You know, and that can, you know, sometimes I've taken 5 years to write a book. Midnight Children took 5 years. The Satanic Verses took 5 years.
Yeah.
The Ground Beneath Her Feet took 5 years.
But now you're getting faster and faster.
Of late, but I think I'm slowing down again.
Good.
I think I had a little burst. But I don't know how I did it quite. 3 books in 3 years. That's not.
Well, the burst was gorgeous. I mean, I have to admit, as a reader, the burst was gorgeous. But now I do want to sit back and like.
No, I told myself, you know, slow down.
Yeah.
Just be like Flaubert.
Can I quote you for a second? From 2 years, 8 months, and 28 days, which totals to?
1,000.
Stop.
When I
was waiting for the mathematicians.
When I published the book, and people worked out that it's 1,001 nights, somebody in the audience would always stand up and say, but not in a leap year. I would say, well, it's not a fucking leap year.
Well, I wrote a book, as you know, called A Paragon, which was in 1,001 chapters. But listen to this. We tell this story still as it has come down to us through many retellings, mouth to ear, ear to mouth, both the story of the poison box and the stories it contained, in which the poison was concealed. This is what stories are. Experience retold by many tongues, to which sometimes we give a single name. Homer, Valmiki, Vaisa, Scheherazade. We, for our own part, simply call ourselves we. We are the creatures that tells itself story, the creature that tells itself stories to understand what sort of creature it is. As they pass down to us, the stories lift themselves away from time and place, losing the specificity of their beginnings, but gaining the purity of essences of being simply themselves. And by extension, or by the same token, as we like to say, though we do not know what the token is or was, these stories become what we know, what we understand, and what we are, or perhaps we should say, what we have become or can perhaps be. Salman,
Well,
I mean, that's just like, I mean, that's gorgeous.
I've always said that, the thing about the phrase I use to describe us is we are the storytelling animal.
Yeah.
We're the only creature on the earth that does this weird thing.
Do you remember writing this paragraph?
I kind of remember it.
Do you remember the high that you got from it? Do you remember thinking, this is good?
Yeah, there are some moments when you feel that.
Yeah.
I've always remembered there's a scene in Shakespeare in Love in which Shakespeare is writing what we afterwards discover to be Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And he's sitting at his desk, and then he gets up and spins around and claps his fingers and he says, God, I'm good. and it raised the question for me, this is Tom Stoppard writing,
Right.
Did Shakespeare know he was Shakespeare?
Of course you did.
And I think he must have done,
Yeah.
because you can't write that stuff.
Have you ever spun up from your table and
No,
said, God, I'm good?
no, unfortunately, no.
No,
No, I mean,
baloney.
there have been little moments when I thought, okay, that's good, don't touch it.
Come on, you didn't stand up on your desk and do a little, like,
Well,
shimmy.
I remember the
and-
opening paragraph of Midnight Children. I remember writing that and thinking, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah, yeah,
And don't touch it.
right,
Leave it exactly as it is.
yeah.
And that happens a few times, but it doesn't happen often enough.
But
if you feel
a few
that
times is
with-
enough, because
Yeah.
for most writers it doesn't even happen once.
Well, I don't know, I haven't been most writers.
Right. But Salman, like writers get asked where we are now, and you know, to comment on like what's going on, and can these things be healed and everything. So where are we now? Where are we?
Well, we're in the shit. I mean, the last story in the 11th Hour is a story actually I wrote some years ago called The Old Man in the Piazza.
Yeah, it's a great story.
And it's about this. It's sort of, in a way, I wrote it before things were as bad as they are. But even then, I was writing about a world in which divisions amongst us have become so deep and so wide that we can't hear each other talk. That
Right.
even if we're speaking the same language, we don't understand what we're saying to each other.
Right.
And one man's truth is another person's fake news.
Right.
That you can't agree on, when you can't agree on what is the case. When you can't even do that, you can't say, this is what it is, and now let's see if we agree or disagree about it. If you can't even agree on what is the case, then you're in bad trouble. And I think we're in bad trouble.
Right, okay. So if we're in bad trouble, that's fair enough, because you and I have talked before about that Gramsci notion of being a pessimist of the intellect and optimist of the will.
Yeah.
Right? So you have these two different things. You can embrace the pessimism and the darkness, or is it possible to be an optimist of the will, to vault away from the darkness? So I'm really interested in you right now as a potential optimist for our time after all the shit that you've gone through.
Well, I think I'm cursed with optimism.
Good.
I think of it, I mean, there's a wonderful, I've forgotten the name of the writer now, Habibi, I think, Palestinian writer.
Habibi, yeah, the Pez optimist.
The Pes Optimist.
Yeah.
I think Pes Optimism is a very good worldview.
Yeah.
To
To be a Pez optimist.
To be
yeah.
simultaneously.
Yeah, but he had to be a Palestinian to say that.
To be simultaneously pessimistic and optimistic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but the whole thing was going on. It's a part of 20th century philosophy. But some of the Adorno were talking about, like all these people were talking about it. But to be a pessimist of the intellect, and then an optimist of the will, it seems to me that to be a proper optimist, you have to be a very good pessimist first.
Yeah, well, it's not hard. It's not hard to be a pessimist right now.
Right. So that's
I
true.
think anybody can.
So
do it.
you be a pessimist, but how can you be an optimist out of the pessimism?
Well, one of the things I would say is that before I was a fiction writer, I was a student of history. That was my university subject. And one of the things that the study of history teaches us is that history doesn't run on tram lines. History is not inevitable.
Right.
Things can change very fast. I've always thought there's that wonderful collection of stories by Grace Paley called Enormous Changes at the Last Minute. And I think that's what history is like, that enormous changes at the last minute.
Beautiful.
If we were sitting here at this date in 1989, and I was to say to you, the Soviet Union will not exist by Christmas, you'd have thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it was the day after Christmas when the wall fell. And I know there's somebody trying to put the Soviet Union back together again, but that's another story. What I'm saying is the world changes very fast, and you can't assume that because things are wrong right now that they will go on being wrong in the same way.
Right.
They can get worse. They don't have to. This is not. It's not pie in the sky. It can get worse,
Right.
but it can also just change dramatically and be different.
Right.
And this is how history moves. It moves by radical changes, and so I'm expecting radical changes.
Good. Good.
Thanks.
Fundamentally, also, I think that this notion of stories and storytelling, and I'll be entirely honest here, I spent my life, telling stories. I've been publishing for 30 plus years. But this thing that we do with Narrative 4, where we bring young people together to exchange stories with one another, to me is as profound, if not more profound, than the work that I personally do as a novelist. And I think then in certain ways they dovetail together. And so when I think of you and I think of the power that you brought to the world, you've been able to tell people the story that they can actually inhabit. And the beauty of literature, and I want to ask you a further question. The beauty of literature seems to me that you can inhabit the life of someone else, but that it is essentially, in the weirdest way, non-violent, in the sense that you can go in and experience someone else's suffering and almost feel it vicariously, but not come away with the wounds. So that one of the beautiful things about literature is that it can become, philosophically engaged with absolute change.
Yeah, I think that's very beautifully said. What I think is that the great constant across time and across space is human nature. All of us, wherever we are in the world, whatever language we speak, in whatever century we live, our human nature is the same. This is why we can read, this is why we can still watch Shakespeare and understand it. Because human beings are human beings, and he shows us human beings.
Right.
It's why we can read books written in languages from cultures that we know nothing about, because the human beings in them speak to us. So the great thing about literature is that we deal with the essence, which is unchangeable, which is human nature,
Right.
and we try and understand that.
Yeah.
There's a line of Bellows where I read not in his books, but in something he said, where he said literature, the novel, I think, he said the novel has deep business at the roots of human beings. And I think that's what I've tried to live by.
So can we still save ourselves, Salman?
If we're lucky, but
How much work do we need to do?
I don't know, but just don't count on it.
Right.
I mean, all we can do is do the best we can,
Right.
and it'll never be good enough.
That's but that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's actually beautiful that it will never be good enough.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
Yeah.
but it might be quite good though.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think I love the work that we do. You know, and I love the world of the book. And I mean, it's the reason I became a writer is because I loved being a reader. You know, and I think many writers are born out of readers, with the exception of V.S. Naipaul. I was once at a literary festival when Naipaul was being interviewed, and the interviewer said to him, asked him what books had inspired him, and he said, "I'm not a reader, I'm a writer." And I thought, nonsense.
Absolute nonsense, because we get our voice from the voices of others.
Because, you know, I've always thought of this, what we do, as being like a relay race.
Yeah.
You know, you take it from here,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
and you run your lap, and you give it there.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about it.
And some run, like you, Salman, run the fastest lap, and it has to be said. And I think it's tremendously powerful. I'm going to open it up to questions now, but I do want to say this, that you have been running and are still running the fastest lap for all of us. And I would love a huge round of applause for Salman Rushdie.